Okay, welcome everyone to another Tandem author interview. I'm so excited today to be here with Danielle Anderson-Craig.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, hi.
Hi.
I'm Des with Tandem, and today we are interviewing live from Danielle's awesome Goddess Garden. So it's super exciting to be here. Danielle is a Montessori teacher as well as the author of one of my absolute favorite books. It's called The Magic of We. If you haven't had a chance to read it yet, you're definitely going to want to pick this book up and read it after this interview. Beautiful illustrations throughout.
Thank you.
But yeah, I'm excited to kind of learn more about your process.
Yeah.
And the book, oh no, The Magic of We. So just to start us off with our first question, when did you begin expressing yourself creatively?
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here. When I first started, I really feel like children just naturally are creative and want to create expressively. And so I was very much like most children in that regard. From an early age, I was creating songs, just being silly around the house or wherever I was, dancing or performing unsolicited shows for my grandparents. Oh, no.
The grandparents were loving it.
The grandparents loved it, yep. And, but my choice to create and express through the form of writing happened around 7 or 8 years old.
Okay.
Yeah, during that time, I feel like when kids are 7 and 8, they start to kind of understand themselves and family and life and the world at large in more complex and sophisticated ways for the first time. And for me during that time, all of it was just landing like so chaotically, and it was so confusing for me. And so writing during that time was like a lot of journaling and writing poetry because it was my way of slowing everything around me down and finding a way to reframe it and rename it and even reclaim it. You know, I didn't have that kind of language back then for it, but that's, in retrospect, what I was doing was like trying to find a way to make all of these things coming in manageable and palatable and beautiful and make sense of it all. So that was the beginning of when I chose to make writing, like the written word, my ally and even a healer to me.
Yeah, that's so important. I love that. So you started quite young. Do you still have any of those books or poetry or writing from when you were 7 or 8?
I do. I still have like the collection of journals from when I was like 7, 8, 9, all the way up to now could fill up this garden.
Wow.
Like there's so much of it, and like most of that stuff I've never shared.
Okay,
Yeah.
Yeah, but like you said, it's so important and healing, I think, to express yourself. I also love to journal.
That's great.
Yeah, that's really cool.
It's like it's been my therapy since before I even knew what the word therapy was or knew why there was a need for therapy.
Yeah, absolutely. I can relate to that a lot.
Yeah.
So do you remember, I mean, you spoke about there being like kind of just like chaos and a lot going on, and I think we can all relate to that. And then that kind of inspired you to turn to poetry. Is that the first way that you started felt inspired to be a writer, or do you remember like a moment where you're like, I'm really going to do this, I want to be, you know, even later on, a children's book author?
Sure. No, there wasn't one particular moment. There was a phase in my life where I was doing a lot of spoken word in college.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I was 16. I was a USC undergrad, and I just kind of like took a deep dive into spoken word, slam poetry, stage poetry. And it was during that time that I realized I could call myself a writer. And I felt like confident and clear about what I wanted to say, and that there was a place for what I wanted to say, and that there was there was transformation involved in that work, and I was able to offer that for people and then also receive it from other poets who are performing and just being raw and vulnerable and giving up the ghost in front of all of these people. And I saw the powerful impact that had on everyone in that arena. And I thought, okay, I want to stick with this and be in the company of writers as well. And I can call myself that now. That's how I felt. Like earning my stripes in that world.
Yeah, I think that's a huge thing, right? To like let go of the imposter syndrome or those internalized things
for sure.
that hold us back from creating. But it's also really hard when you're not necessarily getting support all the time from the world or the messages. Was there like a person in particular who helped you with like starting to do spoken word poetry or finding your voice more, or you really just drew internally?
Yeah, I would say that I owe a lot of who I am today to the music I listen to. Like I've been in love with literature and poetry forever, and also music forever. And I feel like the music I listened to as a child and growing up and then college age and post-college and even to this very day, like the writers who I love the most and who had the most impact on me have been musicians whose lyrics and songs kind of like shook me out of something and then shook me into something. And music has always been a place where there's refuge and respite and feeling seen and feeling safe for me. Yeah, so I think what spoken word was for me was kind of blending musicality with the written word and then being able to create something that was musical and melodic but was not music per se, because I am not musically gifted. I do not play instruments. I love and live for music, but I do not have those skills or talents. So,
well, it's interesting because I will say that you have achieved something with The Magic of We that I haven't seen in any other children's book, which is you really do have that music element in it, because there is the soundtrack too that goes with it. So it's so interesting to hear how music was an inspiration for you, because I do think that this is one of those unique books where you have managed to bring that element into it. And so I'm curious, how was the process of actually sitting down and writing this book for you? Because I know for a lot of folks you might have all that creativity, but actually doing it and putting it into something like this is quite an accomplishment.
Yeah, thanks. The process of writing The Magic of We was like surprisingly sweet and gentle. It started when I was traveling through Nicaragua in the summer of 2014.
Okay, wow.
Yeah, as a teacher, I get these summer vacations where I just get to do whatever I want for like 3 months, and it's amazing. So that particular summer, I went to Nicaragua on my own. I pretty much travel solo.
Oh wow! Okay, that's very cool.
Yeah, it's so good. It's so good. I count myself so blessed to be able to do that. And so I was in Nicaragua, and I was swimming all the time. I was pretending to be a mermaid often.
Okay,
yeah. And I was trying to learn how to surf. I had met someone who wanted to travel together for a bit, and he was trying to teach me how to surf. And so I was like just waking up at like 5 a.m. to do sunrise meditations and then get out into the ocean as early as possible to surf. So I was spending hours a day in the ocean, and I just felt like really clear and like all that salt water like running through me and like just ripping things out and ripping things away and just making room for clarity. And I felt like I was kind of like a tea bag, like steeping in gratitude, you know, and just like holding space for all of these like really important close relationships that I created in like my chosen family world. So it started there, and I wrote the poem in Nicaragua, kind of feeling that clarity. In a few hours, the poem that would be the text for this book was written in just a few hours.
Wow.
Just one of the days I had been in the ocean, just kind of sat down and felt good. And it just came out. So the
Yeah.
process of writing this book was amazing. It was really sweet to sit still with myself, and I was doing a lot of intentional doing the work of being with self.
Well,
Yeah.
I think you did a fantastic job of like representing that clarity and that beautiful celebration of relationships in the poetry and in the text of the book. As well, you know, hearing that you spent all this time in the ocean, it's like, oh yeah, now I'm like connecting the pieces because,
Yeah.
you know, there are so many wonderful images. I don't know if you can see this on camera, but of being together underwater, and yeah, I can definitely see how that inspired it. So the process of writing it was easy. You had
and
the
the images,
inspiration.
a lot of the images came to me during this time, like being at the bottom of the sea, and just feeling protected and like enchanted in the ocean. Like I was doing that all summer, so it came through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then what was it like to try to get like a publisher or to get folks to kind of join you in your vision for this book and make it a reality?
That is a very big question. That's such a big question with a long answer, but I'll try to make it brief. Oh, geez. Okay, yes. So the stuff with like the after the writing, all the other stuff to make it go from seed to like actual palpable product is such a journey, and it's different for everyone.
Right.
For this book, it was a 3-year gestational period.
Okay.
It took a long time to come to birth.
Yeah.
It took a long time.
We're so thankful it's here though now.
Yes, me too. Me
Yeah.
too. It took a long time, and it basically, yeah. So after I came home from Nicaragua, I was like raring to go, and I knew I wanted to take this somewhere, and I wasn't totally clear about where it was going to go and how I was going to get all the pieces in place. But 2 months after I came back from Nicaragua, my closest person passed away unexpectedly, and he was my partner and my best friend. He was a wildly talented and gifted, successful musician. His name was Isaiah Ike Owens, and he had been playing keyboard for Jack White at the time of his passing. And before that, he was playing for a band called the Mars Volta, and before that, a lot of work in Long Beach with Long Beach Dub All-Stars, and even with Sublime. So, and he was the friend who like really brought so much music to me. Like I always say, like Ike raised me musically. Like I know what I know about music now because of my years with Ike. And he was always telling me, you need to share your poetry. Like stop keeping it hidden, and like share, and you should write books for kids because you love children so much, and you got to take these things to this level, and I want to be there and do that with you. So after he passed away, I knew that I wanted there to be an element of homage and celebration and dedication to him and to the closeness that I shared with him. And so right after I got back from Nicaragua, I met one of his good friends at Third Man, and his name is Chet Baker. And that's when Ike was still with us. And then after he passed 2 months later, unexpected, like all of us were devastated, and we got really close. And so during that time, Chet and I agreed to continue to check in with each other about our writing, because Chet is the editor at Third Man Books, but he's also a poet. He's a beautiful poet. So good, so good.
Yeah.
And Ike would always tell Chet, you know, you run Third Man Books and you're killing it, but also like we need to hear more of your words too, and like don't let that go. So Chet and I agreed. Ike's birthday was December 1st, and so we agreed on the 1st of December we'll check in, and after that every month we'll check in on the 1st and just see, all right, what are you writing? What are you working on? I want to hear it. So I had been sharing with him what I was working on, and and then I found a teacher friend, Carly, and got her on board to do the illustrations for the book. And then I moved to Thailand.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Okay,
to do some healing work there after
nice.
the loss.
Yeah.
And then I was communicating with Carly over like FaceTime and email, and from Thailand to Berkeley, like trying to get illustrations figured out. And then one morning in Thailand, I woke up to an email from Chet saying, we know it's not done yet, but we want to publish your book that you're working on. Wow. And we'd like to be a part of the dedication to Ike. And so, and that year that Ike passed away, he had recorded some music that no one had heard. And so it was Chet's idea to release that music with the book as a way to kind of make us co-creators, even posthumously.
Thank you so much for sharing that. It's
Thank you for listening.
Yeah, it's such a beautiful story, and I think that, you know, honoring Ike through this book and the fact that his music is, you know, still present is such a beautiful way of, you know, keeping the spirit going. And I love that, yeah, I just appreciate that you shared the story with us.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. And I mean, all throughout the text, obviously, I mean, the poem is such a beautiful celebration of interconnectedness and creative imagination with another person, and there's so much love in it too. I mean, it's definitely one of those books with every page you turn, you're like, oh, that's so cute. Like, I love that. Like, it's definitely one of those books where you can feel the heart and the soul and the love in every page.
I'm glad to hear that. I'm really glad to hear that. Thank you.
And it makes sense when you hear the story behind it that's coming through so strong, because obviously, you know, you were feeling that very strongly.
Yeah, and I mean, I wanted to take like the things that are universal about friendship and kind of forge them with like things that were really special and like special jewels that were specific to my friendship with Ike. Because no matter what we were, like romantically, we were friends. That was my best friend. You know, like he was my chosen family, and I value my chosen family so deeply, so deeply. It's a very special thing that we get to do.
Yeah.
To choose our family.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Yep.
And definitely we all need them, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so I feel like we've touched on a lot of the other questions that I have for you, but I think if you were to say, because this book is obviously a tribute to friendship and chosen family, and like you were just saying, that's so important. So what do you think makes friendship so powerful?
I could talk about this forever.
Yeah.
I could talk about this for a long time. Yeah, I mean, I was preparing for this conversation and thinking about this question, and I realized, like, this is one of the first places where a child has agency. This is one of the first places where children have control and agency in their lives. Friendship. And that's where it starts. You know, I'm a teacher, and so I get to see these kids come into my classroom in the first week, and I see these like beautiful beings running around and like kind of not sussing each other out, but you know, taking energetic inventory. And I see them kind of like lock eyes even, and just like, you know, like I'm thinking of two right now this year who like they just met and they were like, you want to get into mischief together? Because I do. And they have just been like the Tasmanians all throughout the classroom, you know, like, and as much as it is like, all right, we've got this high level of energy in the classroom now, like, I love seeing these two kindred spirits just get down. Like, I love it. And that's what we get to do as adults. Like, we get to take energetic inventory and just kind of feel this alignment and go, I'm going to know this person for a long time, or I'm supposed to know this person right now, or this person makes me feel seen and I want to explore this connection. So children get to do it, and it's like one of the first places they have control, and then we get to do it as adults, and it's magical.
Yeah.
It's magical. And it's a place where we get to feel seen and safe and heard, and all this magic gets to unfurl because both people feel held in ways that exist only in that kind of sphere.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, sharing this book with children too, you can have so many moments for kind of talking to kids about friendship, to develop those kind of social emotional conversations with kids as they are navigating that. Because, it's like you're preschool? What grade?
So it's Montessori, so they're mixed age. They're 3, 4, 5, and 6.
Oh, cool.
So it's like preschool, pre-K, kindergarten, all in one classroom.
Oh, that's interesting. That's so cool. I love Montessori.
Me too.
Its own special unicorn of wonder and joy. That's great. Yeah. I feel like at the same time as the kids are like learning at that age, like how to make friends, they also might be encountering like, oh, this person doesn't want to share with me, or like, all the things that, 'cause friendship is mermaids and swimming underwater, but there's also sometimes like tears and what does it look like to say sorry to your friend and all of that. So I think there's a lot of opportunity for that, developing those social emotional conversations.
When I take the book to schools for author visits or to bookstores for in-store reads, I have an activity afterwards where the children get a template, and it says the magic of blank, and they get to write whatever comes to mind for them. And then it says being with you is, and it's blank, and they get to make up their own metaphors and similes around whatever they want to explore for this activity. And the sweetest things I've seen are at every school that I go to, at least 5 pairs of children write about each other.
Aww.
And so like, Jack's book is called The Magic of Joan, and Joan's book is called The Magic of Jack, and then they like make up these metaphors and similes about like what it's like to be with each other. And the sweetest one I saw in Brooklyn, this little boy had written about his friend, another little boy, and he like drew a circular representation of the globe, and then like 2 stick figures on top of this circle, and it said, being with you is like we're the only 2 people in the universe.
Oh, so cute.
It was so sweet. And it was just, this is like a 3rd grade class, and then we got to spend time with each other, like talking about interpersonal connectedness and like creating a space to cherish that, because they can be so busy having these relationships, and maybe they're not being modeled, maybe they're not being shown how to talk about these relationships at home or even at school for that matter. So I've been lucky to be able to come in and then create a space where children get to sit down and talk about that connectedness. Some children wrote about their grandmothers. Some wrote about their pets, and it was just a way to sit down and say, I really do cherish this closeness, and why do I cherish it, and what's special about it? And then they get to create all this floral language around this very personal, sweet space that keeps them grounded in the world.
That's so beautiful. I didn't realize that you have developed like lesson plans around the book. That's so cool.
Yeah.
Is that something that you're still doing at this point, like going to schools? Can folks reach out to you
Absolutely.
if they're interested?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, that's great. Yeah. I know I had last year, Danielle, we had the privilege of Danielle coming to do a read aloud at Children's Fairyland for one of our family literacy days.
That was a good day.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me. That was really cool.
Of course. I think it's really exciting for folks, for kids to also just see the power, like you were saying earlier, of, you can write a book, you can have a story, and to see you there and actually get the author to sign a book and everything is really powerful.
Yeah. One of the best parts of that day for me, I was kind of geeked out about it, was like being there and having these little people come up to me and want their book signed, and specifically seeing brown and black girls look at me and me be someone there for them as like a natural Black woman with finger tattoos and the whole 9 yards. Like, yep, you can do what you love and you can express yourself however you want to express yourself. That was a gift for me that day, like being able to be there for them. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know if I ever shared the feedback with you afterwards, but we had invited a bunch of our families from refugee transitions, and the Dion, who I work with, who's one of the teachers for their English class, she shared that a lot of the parents commented to her afterwards that it was like the highlight of the whole event was getting to see you do a reading, because it was the first time they had ever seen like a reader of a book and then get to like meet the author, basically. So definitely added a really special, important element, I think.
I'm glad to have been a part of it.
But that's so cool that you have lesson plans and that you are going around. So you went to Brooklyn and you did it. So you've traveled as well.
I've done some author visits in Colorado and New York and locally here, and I'll be doing more in the spring. So it's great for me, especially when I get to go to places where the student population is diverse and there are lots of Black and brown children there. Like, a big part of writing this book to me was also about creating something I wasn't seeing in the world, like the matter of representation. And I know that you know, because you read books for children all the time as well, the numbers of books that feature children of color, it's just abysmally low. It's changing, and that's great, but I was not able to find what I wanted to read to children, so I had to create it. You know, for me, giving this gift about representation was incredibly important. I wanted to see books for children where children were featured, children of color were being featured, and where they were just able to have this world that was imaginative, and they were able to kind of be dizzy in the days of curiosity and creating and communion and closeness, and be protected within the inherent rights of a sacred childhood. And I wasn't seeing that, so I needed to make it, and I hope that there are more of them created in the world moving forward.
Yeah, thank you so much for saying that. I do think it's a huge problem that there's a total lack of diverse characters in children's books, as well as books that are written by diverse authors.
Exactly,
and then
first voices.
First voices is a huge difference. And your book definitely stands out for having that representation. And I mean, also for me personally, one thing that I really appreciated was I felt like a very gender neutral tone in the entire book. You know, obviously I read it with my own context and I was like, they're queer and gender neutral and I love it. And also, you know, POC children and positive, right? Like beautiful strength and friendship, so it's a really important book in a world of children's books that needs more diversity and representation and first voice authors. Absolutely. I do think it's super exciting being in the Bay because there are a lot of great diverse authors, but the industry as a whole has room to grow.
A whole lot.
Whole lot of room to grow. And it's something, you know, like Dwin and I are very thinking about all the time, because obviously we work for Tandem and our big program is the book bag rotation program. So we're serving 90 to 95% POC children, and we want to make sure that they're seeing themselves reflected in our book bags. So that's why we're super happy to have books like The Magic of We in story cycles, but we want more. So that kind of brings me to one of my final questions, which is, do you think that are you thinking about creating another book in the future, or where is your journey headed?
Sure. Yes. Good question. Well presented.
Yes.
Yes, definitely.
Oh, great.
For sure.
Yeah.
You know, one of the questions that we had talked about was advice for authors.
Yeah.
And like what good advice I received. I got some really good advice lately because I am trying to finish book number 2.
Oh, great.
Yes.
Oh, that's so exciting.
Yes.
I didn't realize that.
Yep.
Oh,
I'm
cool.
trying to finish a second book, and unlike with this one, the writing has been sticky in some places and not as fluid as with this one. And so when I feel myself bumping up against that like stuck feeling, this like tiny bit of panic starts to sprout inside of me, and the voice in that panic is, what if somebody writes this book before you and they get to publish it before you, and then the story is gone forever because you didn't do it, and blah. Like, oh gosh, the avalanche.
Yeah.
And I got some really good advice from a friend recently, and he said to me, no one is going to write this story the way that you would write this story. No one is going to share what you want to share, how you want to share it. And that was really valuable advice to me.
Yeah.
And I was able to take a big old deep belly breath there and just remember that's absolutely true. So I am working on book number 2 and giving it time to make itself more clearly known to me.
Okay. Yeah. That's super exciting, and I'm excited because we can't wait to see book number 2. But I love that advice too. Like everybody has a story to tell, and nobody else can tell it the way that you need to tell it. That's right. That's a good friend.
It's a very good friend.
Yeah,
yes,
that's good advice.
It's really again with this one.
Take that home with me. Okay, so did you have any other advice that you wanted to provide to any other aspiring authors? Yeah,
I would say that what we just talked about, for sure, that no one can share your story the way that you will, so share it. There's so many people who need to hear it. So sit down and do the work of creating it, because we're waiting for it.
Yeah.
Great.
So as we are big fans of children's books at Tandem, we usually end all of our interviews with this question, which is, what is your favorite children's book?
Yeah, that's not a fair question. That's just not a fair question. It's not a fair question.
Yeah.
There's like books I love for reading aloud to groups of children, and books I love for one-on-one bedtime, and there's books I love for, there's just, there's like so many categories of like why I choose books when and for whom and for what end goal. But the one that
you don't have to answer.
No,
if you don't want to.
I'm okay. Okay. I can do this.
Yeah.
I can choose one for now.
I feel the same way. I struggle to choose.
Yeah, I want to hear yours after then.
Yeah.
Okay. So one of my favorite ones, because it always mesmerizes and enchants, and like the children in the room, whether it's like 2 kids I'm doing with like a circle time, just me and those 2 kids, or like a group thing to a lot of children, or just like me with my nephew, like that book just has this way of like a hush falls over the crowd, and the children are like engrossed and enchanted right away, and then they're like quiet throughout the whole thing because they just can't wait for what's next, and they're just brought in. And it's called The Lion and the Little Red Bird by Eliza Clevin.
Yeah.
You know it?
Yes. I used to read that as a child.
I love that book.
I love that book too.
I love that book. And when I was thinking about it for this conversation, I realized, oh, that's kind of similar to my book, actually.
Yeah.
Like, it's these 2 artists, the bird's always singing and the lion's painting, and they don't even like speak the same language, but they realize that there's a vibrational connection, or like some energetic resonance there, and they like are drawn to each other, and they journey on together, and then he brings her into the cave, and then she understands why he's been having a different colored tail every day, and then they like create side by side together and just are like happily sharing space, and they're both artists and creators. Yeah.
I love that that's your favorite. I loved that book.
Didn't even make that
too.
connection between my book and that book until like this morning. It's like, oh, there's a thing there.
Yeah, absolutely. You're right. I love when they had the big reveal of the mural in the cave. It's so beautiful.
It's so beautiful. It's written so beautifully. I love that story.
Yeah.
It's so good.
I'll have to do that as a read aloud. I've never done it.
Oh, it will be magic.
Yeah.
They will
I'm
stop
excited.
and they will stare and they will be quiet and it will be magic.
It's a great book.
Yeah, it really is good. It's very sweet.
Yeah.
Okay, so wait, what's yours?
So I have to be honest that I'm never able to choose because it's like your answer. There's so many and I like them for different reasons and it depends on what you're doing.
Yeah.
I will say, like, on Friday, I just read the book What If, and I should know the author's name, but it just came out last year, and really beautiful. It's the story of a little girl who basically keeps losing all the things that she's making art with. But then is like, if I don't have a paper and a pen, I'll use my imagination.
I know this story.
If I don't have, like, I'll dance it with my body. And beautiful illustrations.
It is gorgeous.
And that one's really great. I can't remember the author's name right now, but
no, me neither. It's a beautiful choice.
Yeah.
Solid choice.
Yeah. That one I just read on Friday, and I was like, oh, I love that.
Yeah.
We just put it in our collection, but. Yeah, so I want to thank you so much for your time. Yeah. Is there ways that people can get in touch with you or anything that you want to let people know?
Yeah, so you can find me on social media, on Instagram. It's just my full name, Danielle Anderson Craig. That's my Instagram handle. Also Facebook, I'm there. And if people wanted to get in touch about school readings and whatnot, my email address is just my full name, DanielleAndersonCraig@gmail.com.
Great.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate this wonderful space. And to everybody watching, hopefully you join us next month for our next author interview. Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.